think I did it again where I didn't share the sound during the timer. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the town hall. I have with us more than just me today. Yorit, our CEO, is joining us for the duration of the podcast today. Hey, Yorit, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Is Glory also showing up
He
today?
should be. He
Should
usually
be.
pops in.
Okay.
He usually about 5 minutes.
Great.
Yeah. He'll be here too. And there's a lot to go over. People who don't know, I do a podcast on Wednesdays and then another one on Fridays. And the one on Wednesday, I usually go into industry stuff and spend more time with the project stuff on Fridays. But this stuff that I've been finding out about hyperscalers and neo clouds and all the data center issues, I've been talking about data centers for a long time now, and why we've always known ourselves to be correct, that a decentralized model is the only way to scale properly. You can't keep on building massive data centers. Just beyond the pushback from the public, just the cost does not equal the value that they get out of it. I mean, it's just massively, they're falling under their own weight. And so we got a lot more articles today that talks about that, and not just about the cost issues, but the latency issues and and legal issues. Because I know that in Europe is even more to consider than what we have here in the States. Hey, Gloria's here now. Hey, Gloria, how are you?
Hi guys.
Calling from the road today.
Glory.
Yeah, like I'm driving. So
Okay, you look like
it's
you're stuck in traffic. It
yeah.
looks like you're not going anywhere.
Uh, yeah, actually I'm stuck in traffic.
Okay. Well, I got your with us today as well. And again, so I went over these stories on Wednesday, but there's so much to go through on all these and how it affects, what our thesis has been at YOM since the beginning. And as I go through all this
Mhm.
stuff again, as I look at all these articles, I'm amazed. I'm tooting our own horn, but we were pretty prescient 4 years ago when we started off on this path. We didn't. I mean, you didn't know that AI was going to take off as much as it's taken off. We didn't know necessarily that GPUs would be as valuable as they are now, or that we had no idea that there was going to be all the supply crunch, right? We didn't know there was going to be another war, and that all the GPU supply chain was going to be disrupted, causing the prices to jack up. We just happened to be in the right place at the right time, building the right technology, and it all kind of seems to be paying off.
Crazy, huh? How the universe finds its ways.
Yep, as I say, that God has perfect timing. All right, so let's take a look at some of these articles. What started me down this path, I mean, we started by building a system for cloud gaming, right? And it does turn out that because as I said, the hardware costs have gone up. Now the consoles are PlayStation 6 might go for $1,000, retail. That the big three are deciding not to subsidize the hardware sales like they used to. In the past, they would take a loss on the PlayStation or on the Xbox,
Right.
thinking they would make it back up in the software, but they've stopped doing that. They said, we're not doing that anymore. It's too expensive, which is, of course, leading to more people, more and more players going to cloud gaming. And at this point, the stats are that over half of gamers have some cloud gaming service that they're subscribed to. So it's just growing. And then this report out of India from Ken Research was that the cloud gaming industry has already reached a $3.8 billion milestone, which is pretty awesome. And the thing I want to point out in this article is that the strategic edge network development is one of the reasons they're stating for the growth of cloud gaming, right? And this is exactly us. The edge network development that we're working on is one of the things they cite as one of the reasons for the expansion of cloud gaming. Did you get a chance to take a look at this one, and did that blow your socks off
I did.
like it did mine?
I did. What is really funny indeed is you see this article, massive numbers thrown in, and then the solution is basically blockchain. But blockchain. It's more like YOM, right? So it's like they call it nowadays edge network, which is basically another word for peer-to-peer living or basically station next to you, right? A neighbor. That's what edge means.
Right.
And it's everyone's faces, right? So you see all of these articles. It's the biggest thing of this 100 years. It's the gold rush of the decade. So you have lots of companies. Almost every company jumped onto the AI bandwagon because of everyone participating in that narrative, and so many investments are going into that space, 90%. But now all of these wrappers and AI applications that are running, that compute needs to actually come from somewhere, and we simply don't have the power grid to sustain that, right? We haven't even started yet with everything that AI. And we're already out of power. We're already out of the GPUs at the moment. So you see prices rising. You see Claude like billing $200 per account just for regular AI usage. Well, the quality will go up, but still, like the consumption that is needed for so many businesses out there. And also imagine that it's like only 2% of the businesses truly using AI everywhere. As much as they can, because it's limited for them as well. But if you imagine the entire world operating like this, that's crazy. You need so many nuclear power plants to be built globally. That's a crazy investment. And that's also where the regulatory part comes in, that the EU basically forbids that. So in America, in China, in other continents, Africa, you can build a center and then you can put in a power plant next to it, or a power plant doesn't have to be nuclear. And then that's it, right? But in Europe, they're basically saying, no, you can't do it, right? That needs the government approval, and that takes at least so many years.
We're gonna get to the European side of things. It's important, but go ahead, Glory. Jump into the game stuff.
Yeah, so there's something that actually I think I have a very interesting opinion about this, about the article. I feel like 3.8 billion is kind of small for the market, if I'm being honest with you, because I think there's like I feel like by now there's already so much like potential, like a lot of potential already in the market. I would estimate like the market to even be over 10 billion. So 3.8 billion is like too small. It's like limiting. It's like restricting the market. I that was what stood out for me. Yes, they said a lot of good things about how it affects cloud gaming and the drivers and everybody that is like pushing whatever indicators that are pushing like the narrative forward, but 3.8, nah, that's small. Like
It should be a trillion.
yeah, that's like tissue paper markets, man.
Yeah, you actually, Clary.
All right.
Yeah, so if we say, okay, this is bigger than blockchain, then it has to be $1 trillion industry, and not a billion.
Yeah.
So we're talking about power grids. This article came out that the power grid, that this is like the largest U.S. power grid. It's the one that covers Philadelphia all the way down to D.C. It's massive. It goes all the way to Ohio. And what they've said is, listen, we can't guarantee. We have a shortfall, and we're telling you now we're not going to be able to supply enough energy. And this is all due to the data centers that are being built up around the area. Like they're pointing to power. They're pointing at the data centers and saying the grid's not going to be able to handle it. Just everyone should be aware. And like you said, there are all kinds of articles that do this kind of thing, that talk about how ill prepared we are for the amount of data centers they want to build.
Yeah. I mean, like Yorit already like hit it on the nail, hit hit everything. He already said everything I wanted to say. It's like, and I think like that's where like maybe what I'll just want to add is that like, I think that's where like Europe, I think I would say I like sometimes some of the policies, of the EU. It's like, hey, like,
Go ahead. We got you. Oh, did we lose you? I think we lost.
He lost connection.
Yeah, I think he did. So to add to this, the Meta themselves they're building a data center that's down in Louisiana, which is again here in the States, but they're estimating that the cost has gone up to $250 billion. And part of that cost is, like as you say, they're planning on building 10 different natural gas power stations just to power this data center. It's going to use up as much energy, just the one complex, use up as much energy as the entire city of New Orleans on a hot summer day, which is it gets really hot down there.
By the way,
So
200 billion.
That's
That's a number that I recall from a couple of years ago. So 200 billion was also the spend that Meta put into the metaverse.
Is it really? And look how well that did for them.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I did some. They're dropping another 250 billion.
I think they're on the roll.
I did some. I went out and I asked some AI, like what else could you spend $250 billion on? Turns out They could have bought. Yeah, well, they could do that too. Yeah, but I wouldn't advise it. They could have purchased a high-end gaming PC for every person in North America, United States and Canada, and put a high-end gaming PC in all those homes, and still had like 25 million high-end gaming PCs to pass out to Europe, instead of spending it all and putting it all in one. What I said on Wednesday night, it's like they're spending this much money to build one big bottleneck that's going to have it's not going to have any kind of latency.
And the other point is that like the compression is really weird on this whole story, right? So if you look at it, if you look at where AI is going, so all of the models are getting compressed, they're open source. Of course, they need to run somewhere, but they are also, for most use cases, they run also already on very tiny hardware. And we just got started, right? It's the same way with electricity grids for electric cars, that you have all of those charging stations now in the Netherlands, but now apparently society decided we're going not to invest into electric cars anymore because of the batteries, and actually hydrogen is better. So you made this massive sunk investment into this infrastructure, and then turns out you don't need it. We just got started with AI in a transformer model, and there are all of these scientists and researchers are already proclaiming transformer models in the way we currently do that. And in spite of that, the industry is now like changing the current charge, right, of spending it on on these hyperscalers, which is another argument for why YOM matters. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Is it a matter that the investors are always just lag behind the new technology? It's not enough investment, I guess, into new technology.
Yeah, it's indeed a capital allocation problem. There are funds with so much money, they can't afford to build the due diligence cases for unknown unknowns, like the black swans in the industry. That would just be like, it's like trying to predict the weather and then putting all of your money on it, right? So it's really, really difficult to do. So what it's like, and every fund is doing that. Okay, what are the parts that are sort of predictable, and then all of the money goes into that direction. There is actually a book on this. It's actually called the Black Swan, where there's also it's Nicholas Taleb who is also saying, okay, the best portfolio building is actually putting your money for a large chunk, and then also putting some money into the into the funds that everyone invests in. And the reason is because you also don't want to always bet against the flow. And a lot of the bets against the flow will fail. But the only thing is known for certain that is that black swans will arrive continuously. So just keeping on investing into the known will be a very good way to push Brian and lose. In the end, can't rely on just pushing on narratives continuously. That's just a very great way of losing money.
Yeah, there was the way that it was said to me was that for all the, if you have 10, if you take 10 wild bets, you really only need one to pay off. It more than well covers the 9 that didn't work out. Right. That one that goes off.
Yeah,
that black
exactly. That's the thinking. And there are a lot of, so this is also like a problem with very complex systems in general, that like small things like butterfly effect can cause massive changes in the future, right? So the metaverse is a good example, because during the metaverse, we already had GPT-2, right? And GPT-1. So it was already out there. The research was out there. There were already people who were proclaiming this is the future. And in spite of that, Meta invested into the metaverse, and lots of companies and investors did, right? So it's not that the knowledge wasn't there. It's just that it was unreachable because it didn't have the proven skill yet, right? So it's definitely, and that's very important, because if you say unknown unknowns, as in, okay, it's important, it's impossible to find them. That's not true. It's very, like, you can find massive gems everywhere. The problem is then also putting your bet on it, right? And really going the deep dive case with capital allocation, right? Like, you do for such large portfolios, do you have the bandwidth and the risk appetite to actually do it? And that's
Right,
where that's the reason why SpaceX is basically the place where everyone concentrates their capital at. It's
Well,
crazy.
it doesn't
It's
hurt,
insane.
it doesn't hurt when your PR
It's
guy
just-
is when your PR guy is Elon Musk, right? That also helps you, get a lot of
Yeah,
eyes. And
so that's the investment. The investment is the guy Elon Musk, but Elon Musk is also immortal in the end, so it will die, right? So it's not a sustainable investment.
Although Steve Jobs kind of let Apple, I think, just passed Nvidia as the highest evaluated company. So
True.
Steve Jobs able to pull it off, but I think he also had some great people around him. Hey, Gloria, go ahead. You wanted to add in?
We lost you for a bit, Gloria.
Gloria, you back?
Guys, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, finally. So, yeah, I had to I had to just park and just stop like driving so that I can join this. So yeah, apologies for that. So yeah, what I was saying earlier, was more about like, in terms of policy, because when Yorit was talking about like, the whole challenges and then just everything, the whole cost, the aspect that I kind of like is, the European Union, trying to regulate, how like data centers are built. I think that, on a human level or human conscious level, I think that eventually, that would be, the best solution. I think eventually, you would see communities fighting against like, these data centers, even in the US, like, it would become, and before you know, the narrative will turn into a rich versus capitalism, socialism, conversation. But why, in my own opinion, if I want to sound very selfish, I'd say, I mean, I wanted to get to that point because it benefits, what we're building at the end of the day. Like, it's like, you guys can fight and kill yourself, but let's just bring, once you hear of YOM, it's like we're solving these problems that you guys are fighting and killing yourself over, like
This is
literally.
this is that actually was part of the discussion on Wednesday night that I had. This article here set up this conversation between is it going to be hyperscalers or neoclouds? Hyperscalers being like the big, massive Google, Amazon, Meta data centers that'll do many different things, right? They'll do data collection, they'll do calculations and AI support. They might try to use cloud gaming, but all those things into these massive data centers. Neoclouds were the smaller, more focused data center buildings where they're saying this data center is built just for data processing, just for GPU power, or this one's built just for cloud gaming, which I don't think any of those exist. So they set this argument up to be, is it going to be this kind of centralized system or that kind of centralized system? And from the graphic everyone should see, they're arguing about who can build a better concrete bunker, when in reality, you want to have open sky. You want to have a decentralized network, a different technology entirely. So their argument is kind of, to my mind, null and void, because neither one of those solutions work. They don't scale. They're too expensive. They're going to have low latency, or excuse me, they're going to have high latency, massive latency. So a decentralized model is really the only solution to go with. Go ahead, you're taking from there.
And yeah, also like a new cloud is it's just a cloud, but with an emphasis on GPU. It's not like ontologically, it doesn't mean anything new. There's nothing there, right? And so it's just a word. It's a term that we like because it's cool. It sounds like the next big thing, but it's the same architecture. It's not at all different. I would say because it's more specialized, there are some advantages to that. So I'll give that to the new clouds. But other than that, there's nothing truly different. Whereas if you look at DPINs, if you look at decentralized architecture, that's just a completely way of doing business and allocating value, allocating capital, offsetting risk, ensuring that supply gets met more organically, that humans actually control their own assets rather than Jeff Bezos, meaning that if you own a GPU, you make money independent of whether you have a salary or universal basic income. Crucial.
It is rumored that Jeff Bezos is a human, though.
That is rumored. He is definitely also a human. I'll give him that. He's partially
that's the
human,
rumor.
but look at this, right? So if we continue on so there's another word that I like more than neocloud, which is techno-feudalism, right? So centralized data centers, that's the techno-feudalism. That's data overlord, right? We're basically, data everything overlords. Is what Jeff Bezos is aiming for. All of the aiming for, and in the not so far future, everyone is subject to them, to the billionaires, because everyone's living inside of and the only way out is by centralizing this and democratizing this and ensuring that that solves all of society's problems, right? Because in a techno-feudal state, there is no value for people, because people don't have to work, because the work is being done by the data centers and the robots. So it leaves people out of the equation, ownership out of the equation. People can just be like nothing, and they don't even have the money to pour into the machine, right? So because they have no salaries,
right.
So it doesn't work.
Yeah,
exactly.
This article came up again talking about the difference between so from what I understand, Europe right now relies on the hyperscalers over in the States, which of course is a huge issue for their sovereignty and data collection concerns, because if they're going to use an Amazon cloud or a Google cloud, there's nothing that stops the US government from requiring that Google or Amazon hand over the data, the personal data of any European user, right? And Europe is upset about this. They're like, no, we need to have these safeguards because our laws say that we have to safeguard user data. So this is a reason why, from what I understand, Europe's not going to allow, beyond just building the new power plants to support the data centers, it's just a sovereignty issue. They don't want to use the hyperscalers in the US. So you've done some research on this as well. What came up in your mind? And again, how's it all lead to YOM?
Yeah, I've had some conversation with experts about this particular issue. And my question was also, okay, I mean, fundamentally, if you think about it, it's just compute, right? It's not storage. You can do compute in the States and then store the data in EU, solve the problem. But in practice, that's not how it works, because the moment your data is getting computed somewhere, then there is no guarantee that computed data is then also not stored in the neo clouds or in the clouds that are actually processing data. That guarantee is not there. So they would have to provide that guarantee in order to be able to provide the GPU, which is impossible until a quantum computed territory. Then you can guarantee these kinds of things. Or blockchain, that all of the data is on chain somehow, but that's just conceptual speculation. It's just throwing words out. Up to that point, the only way to do compute, given European sovereignty, if that is seen as the number one priority, then Europe basically game, because Europe doesn't have hyperscalers. So, and it cannot build the hyperscalers because it doesn't have the electricity grid and it doesn't have the regulatory framework to build the nuclear plants. So how does it work then? Like then do we just build? Do we do deals with Russia and Russia? But impossible. Well, you cannot solve it.
The solution is the solution is everything that we keep on saying. There are still a whole bunch of GPUs that are distributed around Europe that are 80% of the time just sitting idle. Right, all these gaming rigs, all these high-end computers that are sitting idle.
That's when you go deep in. That's when you go for the obvious answer. But
go ahead, Glory.
My only and this is the same question I always ask every time. You know, I say this even on previous town halls. It's like, why is the world not thinking this way? Like, it's like, why is everybody just pumping so much billions into this when the obvious solution is like sitting in your face? Like, I just don't understand. Like, sometimes it just it bugs me. Like,
it is crazy.
Well, that's part of
it. Is crazy. It's like mass psychosis, and it's everywhere. If you think about it, if you really think why are lots of these problems out there, and the moment you see them, you cannot unsee them. People are like arguing about it. It's like, okay, the perspective is entirely wrong. They're just missing the point, right? They're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But that's on this case, but it's also on, I would say, physics even, right? So there are a lot of things like, I mean, the answer is in front of us, but we can't actually see it. The physicists don't. They still think in material terms, whereas you have
Yeah.
mechanics, you have all of the of mind, and somehow these worlds don't. And these are super smart people, and they cannot speak the same language. That's the same thing here, right?
Exactly.
It's like,
Well,
because it's like this. I mean, you hear like Sam Altman, speaking. These are like very smart guys, and then you see them speaking about, hey, we're still going to invest over $20 billion in our infrastructure. $30 billion on data centers, and I'm asking like, is there no other solution? Like, why?
so Glory, as far as like why people don't see this as a natural solution, I'm going to put that on your shoulders because you're our marketing lead. You've got to get out there and I mean, I think we're doing this anyways, but get the message out there that there is a solution that does not involve building a big data center, mining the GPU cycles that are available that are not getting tapped. Right? That's kind of on us to get this message out there. And I was asked actually one of the community members last week, like, what's the big bottleneck? And he's like, is it regulation? Is it technology not ready yet? And I said to him, I think the real bottleneck for us is awareness. People don't yet realize just exactly how much GPUs
that's fundamental thing.
Cycles are sitting there being not used. Right. And
Yeah,
then
and that's why I'm really excited that like we're kind of like getting to that first phase where we're gonna test the product, and then the product is gonna like when I say test, I mean test it with something in the market so that people can now eventually see that like, oh yes, we have more ammunition to like hit the market with. And then even with the operators that would eventually like start using their nanos and their devices, this kind of like helps eventually to sell the platform at the end of the day. Because like and I think I said this also another time. I said that like eventually we're the moment we've past this, or we move past these first initial stages of like building and getting everything like in check and proper and just everything done, I think scaling will become easier for us
it's
because it works,
well,
because it
so
works.
what I liken it to is both Airbnb and Uber. I'm still old enough to remember when neither of those things were even a name or a word. Like people just didn't know what those were. And
Mhm.
it seemed like it happened. It seemed like it came to everyone's consciousness almost overnight. It's not the case, right?
Yeah,
They spent years and years building technology to do both Uber and Airbnb. But then all of a sudden,
exactly.
overnight, everyone was trying to either rent out their extra space or drive a car and make money
Hmm.
off driving their car. I expect it's going to be the same thing with us, where it's going to go from 0 to 1 very rapidly because people's awareness is just going to build very quickly. Do you have
Yeah,
a thought about
I
that? Do you
agree.
agree?
I agree,
You
and
you
I
agree?
agree. I 100% agree. And I mean, anything that's not physical will lose its value in the end. So the main processes, large enterprise companies, overhead, etc. So what remains is locally energy substrates, hardware, and the pros that can bind them together as efficiently as possible. That's the end game, and that's very clear as sky. Anything else, labor, massive companies needing to write code, massive companies needing to hold and manage data centers inefficiently, that's going to erode. Absolutely. And that's not, it's not even a business question. It's a physics question, right? It's about how
Hmm.
matter works. It's about the universe works. These structures never hold. And even if you look at history, the Roman Empire completely dissolved because of its own complexity and its own structures, etc. Right? So you see that continuously, and the only structures that have retained across the entire history of times is like trees, people, water, the earth, the sky, everything that's atomic is eternal. Everything else just evaporates, like explodes, boom. Right?
Exactly.
And,
Centralization works against nature. That's absolutely true.
it's
Centralization
Exactly.
is
nature.
not
So if you
natural
want
state.
to put your balloon because you're masochistic and you like to have to lose money, then you invest in the data centers. Go ahead, right? Like it will go up, it will go down, but you like that. You want to invest in like sustainable things. You invest in like things like gold, right? Natural resources, things that stay, that are deflationary, things that are scarce, efficient, that have no overhead structures contained in them. I think that's the
And you know, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. As you were just speaking, I just something just crossed my mind because I want to use the same analysis even here, like because in Nigeria, for instance, there was a time where like all these billionaires were like investing in like storage centers, to store like fuel and diesel and all this gas, and like it was like a huge thing. Like you could just become a billionaire overnight if you just like invest so hard like in these storage centers. And then all of a sudden, boom, the richest man decides to build like a refinery, Dangote, and then everybody like is broke because the storage centers, they're no longer needed, like literally. Like money
yeah,
wasted, money gone.
Well,
money
I
wasting
mean,
fun. And it
you're
looks like a good narrative, like, but it's all temporary and it's all balloons,
Yeah.
balloons. And that's what, right? We see balloons
yeah.
and we see things that are not true.
So you're seeing now that these articles pop up now more and more where the investors are starting to pull in their horns. They're saying, wait a minute, maybe we jumped to the hyperscaler thing too quickly and it's a bit bloated and they're trying to cut back, right? So you're starting to see already the signs are there that that the investors are realizing that we got way out over our skis. But again, the need's not going to go away. The GPU need's going to be there, but they're realizing that this is entirely inefficient to put all of them into one building. I was talking to a friend the other day explaining again what YOM is to them for the first time. And when I talked about the energy savings and the cost savings and latency, the energy savings, they hook on for a second and said, well, how is it less energy being used if you're using it in the same amount of GPUs, but they're spread out in different homes? And I said, well, you look at that building, right? That building, when you put all those GPUs into one building, now you've got to run massive ACs. Look at the amount of AC units in this image here, right? You got all those AC. So, and whereas if it's just sitting in my room, in my house, it's just, the heat is naturally dispelled. I don't have any of those. I don't have the massive energy cost just for the AC and the cooling that these guys are going to run into. So that right there is just another expense that by distributing the network you don't have.
Right. That's true. That's true. And to be honest,
and as soon as I said that, they were like, "Yep, I get it now." Yeah.
And there is also like in the countries where usually energy is done, say the sun, right? So you can say, okay, well, via solar energy, and you can also in the summer, you won't need to then. I mean, then the GPU doesn't provide cooling in your home, but the trade-off is that you can provide it for free because during the summer, you've got you've got electricity, you can power the resources, you make money with it, right? If you're using a YOM Nano or YOM node. But in the winter, you use it to actually warm your house, right? So you save what I spend on heating. So you're never in a loss. So you're always either in a profit or it's stable, right? Because otherwise you're spending the electricity anyways on heat.
Exactly.
Single the heat comes by CPU, a GPU, or you're all fundamentally paying for the same thing. Well, I'm not talking about the hardware amortization cost the separate one. But if we're talking about
Yes.
electricity, which is the largest cost, that's actually you're paying for heat. And yes, you don't need, but then it's free. And in the winter, it heats your home. So it's a win-win.
So I've got a couple of questions from the community. We probably should hit these before we close out. Daniel asked when YOM going to be available in regions like Latin America. I mean, if you've got a gaming GPU, gaming PC, gaming rig, you could purchase a Nano now and get set up in Latin America. So the only thing that's really stopping it from reaching into Latin America is the amount of Nanos that are available. We have, we're set up in Argentina and Brazil both, and we expect to expand as well. So it's really just a matter of expanding the network out. There's nothing stopping us from getting down to Latin America. I think that the biggest issue really is just getting the units out there. So nothing else is stopping us.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you answered it correctly.
So this is a good time for me to make the push. If you're curious about getting passive income from your gaming rig, if you're like, listen, I don't use my gaming rig when I sleep at night and when I go off to work during the day, and you want to understand like what we're talking about for possible income, we have built an app that allows you to test your system to find out, gives you an estimate basically based on how many hours a day you expect to run it, how many days a month you expect to run it. You can go to app.yom.net/rigcheck and run that test on your system. It'll give you a good estimate about how much you could be earning. Now these are, as we get more and more efficient, we're going to, more and more streams per unit. Your GPU dictates how many streams you can run concurrently. And of course, the region that you're in will also affect this. If you're in a region where cloud gaming is really taking off, you have a better chance to fill up your streams every time you've got it turned on than if you're in an area where people are still using their home system. So that's kind of plays into it. Regardless, since everybody's cloud gaming now, I think that's going to even itself out pretty rapidly. Anything I forgot there, Yorit, that you want to, or Glory, that I should add in there?
No. And it comes also when it's so there's no urgency here. So I understand that people want to have their Nano now, and the people who purchased it, they will actually receive it very soon. But so just look at the equilibriums happening, right? So if you set up a Nano in a region where there are no gamers, obviously you're not going to make as much money as you can when there are a lot of gamers. So as part of also our communication, the transparency goal that we have with the protocol, we're making that as transparent as possible so that people can actually, before they get started, get insight into, okay, how much are people in my neighborhood earning now on a monthly basis, right? Which is a very important reason, I think, for people to buy, because most of our skeptics are in that area. It's about, okay, yes, it works. It's all great. It's all the super. Yes, you are the fastest network on the world. We're solving all of these issues, blah, blah, blah. But the final thing, how much money do I make with it now? Can you answer it now in this? And that is a very difficult question, because in order to answer it, I mean, it's an equilibrium question, right? We need this also in your area. And the only way for you to get an understanding of that is for us to be very transparent about it. And luckily, every session is already on chain. Take us too much effort to do, but we do want to make that as public and transparent as possible.
Yeah, I mean, do you know that from a marketing standpoint, I just think that people that care so much about how much they're gonna make, I think they're not seeing the bigger picture. Because if you see the bigger picture, I don't think that the primary, like, what you'll be thinking about now is how much you would make. Because literally, your PC is just sitting down doing nothing, man. And even if you play games like 5 of gaming rigs, like maybe 10 hours.
Nothing anyways.
Yeah, it's literally not doing nothing.
That's the other question. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're just getting your PC to work, man.
Yeah. All right. The next question I have. The next question I have is IZ guy has asked, what happens to the network when people stop buying and upgrading their gaming rigs because they can now play on YOM, right? And it's actually, I think, a slightly fantastical question. There are always going to be people who want to own their equipment and who are technophiles. They always going to just to do bigger and bigger gaming rigs at home. So I don't know that that's really ever going to happen. I think more likely what's going to happen is those people who never get a chance to game before now have access to games by going through the YOM network.
I think the question has to be first really understood from first principles, right? Okay, what happens when there are very scarce like cars? That means that rewards go up. That means you earn more if you have a GPU. Then the reason GPU is not to play the game, is to make more money on the network, right?
We got to do something with yours. Your connection. Is.
Finding them.
Let me summarize what you were saying, because it's a good point, right? That if fewer people are putting their rigs on the network, that means there's more streams for everyone who is on the network, making their rigs even more valuable, enticing more people to come back in and purchase a rig themselves just to run the network and not even the game themselves.
Eventually we're going to be building we're going to be building an ecosystem where people would like just randomly say, hey, I just want to buy a gaming rig just because of YOM. Like literally, it's not because I want to play games or because I want to own the games. Like it would be like we're going to create a new economy, and like a completely new economy. So,
what we have now are people who have a gaming rig that was just sitting in their closet because they've upgraded. And what they did was they took their old gaming rigs out of the closet and put it on the network. These are like 3060s and 2080s, or this is that they're now running the network on. So we have some 4070s running as well. But there are some people who are testers for us who just went out and got their old machine and put it back online just to power the network 24/7, and they're doing very well with it. Jort, you want to add?
Yeah, I was out for a bit. Suddenly you guys sped up in terms of speed. I was like, shit. I think I lost my connection. But now, there is a practical reality. There's a pragmatic reality where people indeed at some point sign up because they want to make money, and YOM is the way to make money, and that becomes the new focus. It's not about buying a gaming rig to play video games. It's okay. You rent to play in a way, and you buy directly from the publishers that you like, and you buy a GPU, you buy a gaming machine station like device to make money, and that's going to be the future, and that's going to be I think I lost it.
No, you're good. You're still there. Maybe he's not hearing us.
Still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay, I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, I don't think he can.
But at the end of the day, I get what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay. We understood what you were saying, Yuri. So can you just?
Yeah. So I think the last thing I want to touch on is the question that we also got asked on Wednesday night was, what's the misconception that people have about YOM? And what I said was that, though we started off with gaming, because again, gaming is the hardest thing to solve. It proves out low latency. It proves out the distributed model really, really well. But that the big conception is that's all we can do with this network, and that's just not true. There are so many other GPU batch uses that our network is available for that'll again replace all the data center models.
This is actually an important point, right? So this is also the reason why we're collaborating with all of those telcoms. So those telcoms are also prepping for AI consumption, but they also realize that we are the best. Beyond even retail, so we're signing up the protocols and the companies, the hardware providers as well, the miners, and we hope to also share more information about that as well, because the institutional adoption is one of the core pillars that I don't think we've talked about yet. It is in our paper. We're not just for retail.
Yes.
We're open. right?
Yeah. It's part of our transparency model and part of our goal to be able to support both the environment and the consumer, people's passive income needs, but then also the needs that the world has for GPU compute. Just doing it in the most efficient way possible, most energy efficient way possible, the most scalable way. I had said in Wednesday night we called it the fastest network, which is true, but we can also say that they were most efficient, we're the most cost effective, we're the best for the environment. There's a lot of things we could say about our network. We went with fastest, but there's too many other descriptors that we could use.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Agreed. You guys hit it.
All right, I'm going to call it a wrap. We got about 50 minutes into it. That's a good amount of time. And we have no more questions. We went through all the questions that we had. So if you're out there and you're curious about YOM, you're hearing us for the first time, or maybe you're just a little bit curious, you've heard us a few times but don't understand exactly what we do. YOM.net is a website. It has all the information there. Obviously, we have all these town halls. We do them on Wednesdays and on Fridays. There's app.yom.net/rig check. That's where you would check to see if what kind of passive income you could make from your gaming rig. And then I think ultimately just pay attention to the space. We're on Twitter a lot. We have a Discord that's very active. So get in our Discord. Join our Telegram group as well. If you're not a Discord user but you like Telegram, we've got a Telegram group as well. Come and use. If you go to YOM.net, it has links for all these things. Medium posts, blog. There's a lot of information out there. Suggest that you do your own research and find out what we mean when we say distributed network. The decentralized network is really the only way to solve the world's GPU needs.
Great
Sound
way
good?
to put it.
I've been. Yeah, and there's one last thing I want to say, and I've been saying this every town hall. Guys, we have something launching very soon. And I think maybe the next town hall we'll be able to announce it.
You said that the last town hall.
We're very excited.
Yeah, we are very excited about it. But again, we
We're
also have
excited about that.
people get frustrated with us, but we do have this ethos. It's very similar to Valve that we're not going to put anything out until we know it's ready to go. Right? There's always pressure from the community and even internally from ourselves to say, get it out now, get it out now. But we are, I think, very good about having our cooler heads prevail and say, no, we'll get it out when it's ready to go out. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to let perfect be the enemy of good enough, but it does mean that, if you're frustrated on some delays, this kind of new technology requires some level of patience. But ultimately, again, we know that that's the right way to do things. We have a path in our heads, and it's inevitable. We know it's inevitable. So you're going to be on board when it happens.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So as I always say, drink lots of water, go outside and touch some grass, look at the stars at night, tell someone close by to you that you love them, right? And be good to yourselves. And we'll talk again on next Wednesday. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Okay.